My first guest in studio is joining me. It's Mr. Bob Bernstein. He's the co-CEO of MTCH Corporation, stock symbols MTCH. Bob, good to see you again.
It is good to see you, Don. It's been a while.
It has been more time than I like, because we like to have our guests in here very often. But tell me, for those who are seeing you for the first time, tell us again what MTCH does.
MTCH has the only device in the world that finds growing cracks in metal bridges. And there are 200,000 metal bridges in the United States, and they must be inspected every other year, and they are. And they're inspected with a guy walking over and tapping them with a hammer.
Well, one of the other, I was just going to mention that, because you were saying, what's the status quo for inspecting a bridge? And you said walking and tapping with a hammer, or standing underneath and looking at them with a pair of binoculars.
Exactly.
Now, your device actually can discover where these minute cracks might be happening to stave off any potential disaster.
Exactly. It'll only find cracks that are growing. If you've got a little crack or a big crack somewhere and it's not growing, it's not a problem. If you've got a huge crack up top somewhere, not a problem. But if you've got a little growing crack at what is called a fatigue critical location, you better fix it.
Now, we saw something not too long ago, the San Francisco Bay Bridge, right around Labor Day weekend. That became a real problem because they were going to replace, I think, a 50-foot section of the bridge. And then they discovered on Friday that they weren't going to have the bridge open in time for Tuesday morning when commuting was to begin. They probably could have known about that long before that had they been using your technology.
Without a question of a doubt. And the fact is they got very lucky that they found what they found, or there would have been real tragedies.
I've noticed here lately you've had a tremendous number of press releases, I'm going to say, here in the last 30 days, a lot of different alliances, one of them with Northrop Grumman. Tell us about that.
Well, we have been speaking with Northrop Grumman for quite a while now, and they're very interested in our technology, and obviously we're interested in their huge company, and we're working together on an inspection coming up shortly. And they have a technology they've been working on for quite a long time, which is long-term monitoring, and it's a possibility that our technology would fit into that. But we're developing, hopefully, an interest. We jointly presented at a conference, a bridge conference in Pittsburgh, with them, and both their company and my company's name was on the slides, and it was quite a good reception that we got.
You know, Bob, when I think about it, in my lifetime, most of the bridges that I'm aware of have been around my whole life. I mean, I can think of a few new ones, but for the most part, our infrastructure with respect to the metal bridges is certainly getting older day by day. So having your technology in place, at least from my perspective, would seem to be very important at this time.
It is very significant. The average age of the bridge in the United States is over 50 years. And if you looked at the index there, most of them are, quote, structurally deficient, as rated by the federal government. And they are inspected every other year, but using our technology to determine if there is a growing crack or not at a fatigue critical location could save enormous amounts of net money to the states and the DOTs. There's one particular state on the East Coast that we did a study based on their 2-year engineering analysis of the cost of maintenance. And based on their numbers, we were able to project we could save them $100 million a year using our technology. And the technology is very simple to use. You and I could learn it in 10 minutes. Wow.
Again, the company is MTCH Corporation. The stock symbol is MTCH. For more information, give us a call from anywhere in the world there happens to be a bridge, 888-259-4449 to get free information in the mail. Now, Bob, a couple of years ago, there was a tremendous tragedy in Minnesota where a bridge actually collapsed, a commuter bridge, cars on board, things underneath, and, some people lost their lives. It was a tremendous disaster. Had your monitoring system been in place, could that have been averted?
We think so, and I may have mentioned this to you before. We were approached by the engineering company who did that work there to do an inspection, and we gave a quote. And they just, didn't seem to be interested, and 1 week later the bridge fell down. Oh my gosh. Now, I can't honestly say that we would have found the problem, but we may have found the problem. And it would have cost them next to nothing to find it, because, people got killed there, and there's $400 million lawsuits going on, and so on and so forth.
When your technology is in place, is it periodic monitoring or is it constant monitoring?
No, it's periodic. It's from time to time. It takes about 10 minutes, 15 minutes to do a point of a bridge, you know, and there might be 10 fatigue critical locations, and you scrape off the paint and you put down a couple patches, and trucks run over and you get electricity going through into the bridge. You get a readout just like you're doing an EKG on your heart.
Well, no, you mentioned that the average age of bridges here in this country is about 50 years,
yes,
which means that there's some that are 80 years old.
That's correct.
And when these bridges were built in the 40s and the 30s, we didn't have nearly the amount of traffic back in those days. Not everybody owned a car, and we didn't have the kind of commutes going on. I mean, you know, you have some bridges that were probably designed for 10,000 cars a day that are seeing 70,000 cars a day.
Exactly.
It seems to me it would be critical to be monitoring these bridges on a much more consistent basis than a guy hitting it with a hammer twice a year.
Absolutely, and our technology can be used so easily and quickly. We can do it on a monthly basis, on an annual basis, and the engineers know where the fatigue critical locations are, so it's not that you've got to look at the whole bridge to find out. If you've got a big crack somewhere up in the air on a bridge, it doesn't mean anything. But if you've got a 3-inch crack at what is called a fatigue critical location, you've got to fix that right away, or that whole bridge can go down.
Now, as I mentioned earlier in the interview, I've seen a fair number of press releases from the company talking about a variety of different business activities. How about the municipalities that you're dealing with? Are they buying into the technology?
Yes, they are. We feel very confident. We have a lot of interest. The interest is growing, and they know that there's a problem out there, and they've got to solve that problem. And we've done some bridges. We have some big bridges coming up in the next 30 days that are very significant. And we've done inspections in Massachusetts, Pennsylvania, a number of other states, and the results have been tremendous.
Well, now, Bob, when you're providing service to your clients, I mean, are you licensing the technology, or are you actually acting as a vendor? You're coming out and doing these inspections.
At this moment, we're acting as the inspector.
Okay.
But the drill of the company is to license the technology to the engineering companies, and they can be taught how to use it in 10 minutes.
Okay.
We interpret the software.
I see.
That's our protection. And we would do that on an ongoing basis, but to do the inspections, we'll hire big engineering companies.
So right now your revenues are primarily coming from the actual inspections
yes,
that you're being contracted to do?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Now, from the standpoint of international opportunity, you said you're the only technology that can do this. So essentially your competition is the guy with the hammer.
That's right.
Okay. So from an international perspective, in other parts of the world where there are spans everywhere, what kind of efforts are you making internationally?
Well, we have been down to Brazil. Recently made a presentation. Monty Mosier, our chief engineer, went down there for a week, and we have very serious interest from Brazil in a number of areas. We've done 4 bridges in Australia, and we'll begin communicating with them shortly. We've done a bridge for the Canadian National Railway, and hopefully we'll be speaking with them as we go. It's just a long-term process dealing with the infrastructure and the government and so on and so forth, but it's valuable, and it will be used.
Okay. Now, for people that you make presentations to, are you able to demonstrate? You've mentioned cost savings with respect to potential litigation and potential damages, but can you make a case for using your technology is actually less expensive than the status quo?
Yes. Recently, there was a state, who I won't mention the name, who did a retrofit on a bridge for $700,000. We were called in to do an inspection afterwards. They didn't fix anything. Now, that wasn't their fault. It was they didn't realize the nature of the problem and so on and so forth. So not only can we detect growing cracks, but we can determine whether a retrofit, a repair, has been validly made. So it's just a matter of getting the word out enough and doing enough inspections and showing enough. And we're working with Federal Highway Administration. We've worked with them in a laboratory. We're going to be out with them on a couple of live bridges, and they seem to be very interested in what we're doing.
Once again, the company is Maytech Corporation. MTCH is their symbol. Bob, fascinating story. Thanks for bringing it to us once again.
Good to see you.
You too.
Thank you very much.
Take care.